feel like it's been a while since we've done this. But we are Lipstick and Logic, and we're back, and I'm excited. And we are talking about something that was inspired by Black is King. But we're not talking about Black is King before you start with like, oh, Beyonce with Shireen again. No, we're talking about Africa, right? So we're talking about the experience of being African American and Afro-Caribbean too, for us. Us meaning me and Isha, African American for Isha and Jess, and I guess partially me too, and being disconnected. So this all started because with Black is King, there's been a lot of controversy around Beyonce appropriating Black culture, African culture, according to certain people. And I know I hear that and I personally get upset. And Isha, we were talking about that earlier today, right? Because you feel the same way. But you do feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jess, I don't know how you feel.
I think I sent you a link probably a few weeks back of someone that I guess was African that had like really gone in on Beyonce about it, and I just wanted kind of you guys' perceptions of it, because I guess my immediate thought, I'm not really, I was really raised around my Thai family, so most of my cultural knowledge is based upon that region and not Africa, or not being gravitated towards the African culture. So I really didn't know how to feel when I saw it. It was kind of like, okay, I can see that, but I also feel like this girl's probably about to be dragged. So that was like the first thought.
But let's talk about that for a second, because I was saying that earlier. You are biracial, half Thai. And has anyone ever come at you for trying to celebrate your Thai culture? Has anyone ever said, or do you see people doing that with Asian Americans? Do you see people doing that with Scottish people and Irish people, with them wearing kilts and doing their dances? No one comes at them like, you're not Scottish, or not even you're not Scottish, you're appropriating this culture that you were actually born into.
No, I haven't gotten that before. And honestly, a lot of the times people tend to find people that aren't mixed, but are like Thai people, whenever I run into them, I'm talking to them, they find it very admirable that I'm able to communicate with them. But I have seen, and I don't know if you guys saw, where the I think it was Miss Japan, is Black and Japanese, and a lot of people were upset about it because they were like, well, how does she represent Japan if she's only half? So that's like the most I've ever seen.
About that.
Yeah, come from like, other cultures other than Black or African American or African, with criticism like that.
Right. And it all goes back to the Black part. Because I just think we are in this very interesting space because we can't trace back our roots. Even me with my family being Jamaican, I can go back to Jamaica, but then prior to Jamaica, people are able to do that. Like, oh, we were here. For us, it's like, this is all that we knew. So what is that way? And okay, let's say that it is actually appropriation. Let's just say that. What's the appropriate way for us to celebrate that and learn about that without stepping on toes?
But I just feel like it's not really appropriation, because it's a celebration of being Black in general. So if no one's seen, okay, so let's just say this: if Beyonce did her DNA test and she had roots in Africa, is it more acceptable? Because half the time when the ones that I've seen of people doing their DNA test, a lot of them have roots in Africa. So then why is it appropriating if it's really in your background, or your DNA? Yeah.
Isha looks like she got something to say. You made a face. You're like, no, it's not appropriation.
I don't think it's appropriation
right.
at all. I don't understand why they feel that way. I have like a lot of things. I think even for me, I'm African American and I have like Afro Caribbean roots. My mom's from Suriname. And so whenever I hang out in different groups, people will ask me like where I'm from. So then
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell them that my mom is from Suriname, and then I'll automatically hear like, oh, well, that's good. You're not African American. And I don't know if that's what it's about. Even then I went like on a Twitter rant about just kind of checking where your intentions are coming from and where these thoughts of appropriation are originating. Because I think oftentimes, because we are removed from Africa, people, for whatever reason, whether it's white supremacy, they take on this idea of what African Americans are, and it's not true. And even if we are that, if we are ghetto, if we are uneducated, if we are loud and boisterous, there's nothing wrong with it, really. Us being uneducated has to do with, again, systemic racism and white supremacy. Us
Mm-hmm.
being ghetto has to do with us being, I guess, like having ingenuity and creative, and even then being poor in our communities and coming up out of that. So I don't know, those sort of things. I think a lot of the stuff that they take and twist like as if it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if they're using it to kind of have some form of elitism, that they're pure and that they're this. I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem conducive to all the Black people around the world. Like, why are we doing that? Why are you wanting to separate yourselves from us when the whole point is we want to be accepted and we want to actually find out where we're coming from?
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said that too, because there's a lot of genius in what can be considered ghetto by some people that we don't get, African Americans don't get respect for. So I think that's an excellent point. Let some other group do it and it's like, oh wow, that's so creative. Let us do it and it's like, oh, that's so ratchet, that's so ghetto.
Even then, I was guilty of it too, like kind of being partial to my ethnic side, not really to my African American side. And I think it didn't happen until I hit my teens. I like it really hit home everything that these people went through, African
Right.
Americans went through, from
Right.
slavery to even civil rights movement and where we are now. Like, it's amazing. And I think, and I'm just as proud of that side of my heritage as I am about the um, Caribbean side. And I think that's just something that I wish people who are claiming this cultural appropriation, I wish that they could see that these two things can
Mhm.
actually come together and we can create something really beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you made too. I was actually seeing something that an African American friend posted recently, challenging people from the islands to stop buying into that narrative of the negativity with African Americans and the false facts. I mean, I've heard so many things that are untrue because this system, this world buys into that, and unfortunately, it just continues to put African Americans in this negative space where nothing that you do is right. Like you're always judged for everything that you do. I don't know.
You know what I think another problem is? It just like internally is
Mm-hmm.
that we have that system for ourselves in general. So that goes with colorism as well. So I feel like when we're not able to even come together as a whole in general here, and then when someone that you feel should be able to accept you because you feel that's where your roots are, we're on similar playing grounds, they're like, nah, we're different. But in actuality, that's our origins. So why don't our origins want to accept us as well?
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have our own internal problem, and then the origin doesn't want to accept you. So what do they want? Like, what are we supposed to do?
What do
Yeah.
we do?
Like,
And
Yeah.
to be fair too, though, colorism is across all groups. I first saw bleaching cream from you, Jessica, not because she was using it. I just want to specify that. But one of your trips back from Thailand, you had that lotion. You were like, "Look what they have in Thailand." Do you remember that?
That's actually, it's not a bleaching cream.
It's
Just
a
so
whitening cream.
it's a sunscreen lotion.
But
So
the advertisement
I
on it was to keep your skin lighten your skin, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that all all races face, unfortunately, and it's an impact of colonialism, but where lighter is better, and what can we do to look more white and be more accepted and have straighter hair and all that jazz. But
I find it terrible that within the culture that should be accepting of that, there's an issue with it, if that makes sense. So to me, if any other culture where there tends to be more fair skinned population makes a big fuss about that, but in the Black community, where we should be used to seeing people with dark skin and people with brown skin or even different skin tones, why the issue with one being praised over the other within the community, that is common, and it's not like you've never seen it. Because the thing is, like in a lot of the Asian cultures, there are dark skinned Asians, there are a lot of them, but they're not always seen. So even when I would visit, I didn't see a lot of dark skinned Asian, I saw a lot of tan Asian. But for them, when they see somebody different, it's an eye-opener for them because they've never seen anybody with that skin tone. But Black people have seen plenty of people with darker skin tones, but yet it's still an issue instead of
I don't know. I'm on the fence. I hear your argument, but then I also think, like, I watched what is it called, Indian Matchmaker recently, and there were so many people on that show that mentioned, I want someone with this qualification, this, and I want them to be fair, you know. So that's in the Indian culture, and then you've got yours in the Thai culture, and I can't speak for the Chinese culture because I don't know enough about it. But I mean, I think that you do see that, and even with the white culture, the blonde eyes and blue hair, like it's a thing everywhere where darker is not considered better. And
Right, though.
Sorry, that wasn't my point though. My point was
okay.
the fact of it being an issue within a culture that tends to have more brown skin or darker skin people.
More variety.
So like for me, like in the Indian culture, I'm actually kind of surprised about that because they also have a lot of dark and brown skin people. So I'm just saying in the communities like that, I don't understand why we want to praise the lighter skin tones or make the darker skin tones feel, or even I guess we've gone back and forth to where we were praising darker skin over lighter skin and team light skin, team dark skin, all that other stuff. But I just find it odd that instead of us being accepting of all shades because we're used to seeing it all, we've been exposed to it all, we find a way to elevate one over the other instead of equalizing.
I don't think this is like about shades per se, even in this arena, which to me is really strange because it typically would be about that.
Because we went on a tangent.
Yeah, and I know that African Americans, the thing about that is, again, we don't know where we're from, and there's been a lot of, I guess at one point, like just putting it out there, there's been like a lot of, because we were treated as cattle, like inbreeding. So people have been mixed with white and Asian, all kinds of things. I don't know, Indian, Native American.
Right.
So, but the thing I think is really weird is that, again, because it's typically about colorism and people having a greater mixture and variety in their genetics is usually praised. But in this instance, it's almost like a rejection of African American and the diversity that they come with in comparison to people in Africa. Like, I don't even know what group specifically, but I just know that it was the post that you were talking about was a woman from Africa, and you were upset at Beyonce because she's culturally appropriating. And she had also never gone on tour in Africa. So I guess to like even talk about that, she was supposed to be going on tour this year, but we had COVID. So I don't even know why people don't go to Africa. But anyways, the point is, I feel like because of colorism and because of the way that African people or anybody that's darker skinned have been treated, this is almost like a form of elitism that they really want to hold on to kind of reject whatever African Americans come with and all that. That's just something that I view, but I can't speak for people who have that perspective. And then I know that even if I were to approach somebody, I don't know if they'd be comfortable admitting that they feel like that. But
I would love to have that conversation with someone.
But the thing is, we had it. like you can't say that in your group, and I think amongst all of us, because we are not strictly African American, I've
Mm-hmm.
not heard people dog African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can say that because I know I've heard it in family, in friend groups. I've heard people dog African
Well,
Americans.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that this issue that we started with is more about, for me, let me say this. For me, my interpretation of it is if you don't like, what do you want us to do? Is basically what I'm trying to figure out. Like, we're here, we're saying, you know what, we're embracing this culture. We're finally getting to that point where we as a Black society in America at least are embracing our heritage and saying we want to celebrate that. So
Even
I
just
don't understand what you feel that should look like if you think we're not doing it the right way.
I'm really not willing to entertain it because I think it's a silly point in the first place. But again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on the other side. I'm African American and whatever else. Um, but I don't know. Like I can't even because even at, like let's look at it. We as people of color, we know what cultural appropriation is. Like, we've seen
Mm-hmm.
people culturally
For
appropriate
sure.
African
Yeah.
Americans, Asian culture, Jamaican culture. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you? So then, what would your argument be to them? And does it fit? Does it fit to give that same argument to African Americans or that same solution to African Americans?
You know what? I love that you said that because I don't think that the argument there would fit because I do feel like we are lost culturally and we don't know. We just don't know what that looks like. So I was talking to my brother about this earlier too, and he brought up the point that a lot of times when you look at recent media, um, yeah, I'm going to say recent media, you see this image of Africa that is um, unrealistic in that it's like Wakanda is not a real place. Look at Coming to America. I can't even remember the country, but it's not a real place. Black is King is a lot of different places that are, you know, if you're putting it all together as one place, it's not a real place. You know what I mean? But I think that we kind of have swung the pendulum on how we as Blacks are portraying Africa because we've seen so much negative portrayal. We see all the really just sordid history of things like apartheid and what happened in Rwanda and blood diamonds in Sierra Leone. So we're at this point where it's like, look, Africa isn't only this continent that's full of sorrow. There's so much beauty there. And this is what we're going to show you. And we are kings, we're royalty, and this is everything that we can do. So I do feel some type of way, because that's the only emotion I can think of, that people are upset about that. And then also, is it partially because it is who it is? Because I didn't hear the same arguments come up with things like Coming to America, even though we were young, or Black Panther. I don't know.
I just feel I'm saying in my own ignorance because I understand I don't know everything about Africa or, you know, what someone who is from Africa might see the situation as. But I don't see it the same as a cultural appropriation because we're dogged out by every other culture for being people of color. And then when they feel like they want to use things from our culture, then it becomes okay. Then
Right.
it's not dirty or, you know, whatever. But my issue with the fact that they're saying Beyonce is culturally appropriating things is that she's praising Africa. She's trying to be uplifting towards the culture. She's also a woman of color who's never said anything, you know, or I don't know, but we're not dogging out Africa basically and saying stuff about their braids and their hair and skin color, you know. So why is it that we get the same treatment, or Beyonce's getting that treatment for something that is on a different, like it's totally different approach that she's coming with versus like us being dogged out by other cultures and then taking things from African Americans and making it look like, you know, it's okay because it's on them now, and that's not what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I had another question. or thought? Because again, I know that they were talking about the release of Black is King, and it actually happened weeks before it was even released. Because it was released, what, I think Friday afternoon or something?
Yeah, like
Friday, like early
yeah.
in the morning. So I wonder too, because I was just reading like what is cultural appropriation, and it's almost like fetishizing. You probably should have started out with in the first place.
With the definition, yeah.
And taking elements from the original culture and
Mm,
then just almost as if you're I won't say misinterpreting it, but you're only giving bits and pieces to the whole picture. So
mhm.
I don't know. Again, I'm not African. So like, and I don't know. I know that that again that Africa is not a monolith, and there are very many different groups and tribes. There's I'm not even gonna misquote anything. But the whole point is, I wonder too now, after it being released, what their thought is on that and how she actually delivered it. Was she respectful of the culture? Did she
Mhm.
do it tastefully? I mean, like, how do you feel? Did they feel proud about her work of art or her body of work? Let me say that. Do they feel proud about it? Because I know I
Mhm.
do, but I just know about it from my perspective as an African American. I have no ties back to anything. So honestly, if you give me a crumb of something, I'm gonna be very happy. I'm gonna be happy with it. But I don't know. I still don't think it's the same as Caucasian people taking on Indian culture and just, you know, making money off of it
Mhm.
and still discriminating against Indian people. You know what I'm saying? I just don't
Yeah,
think it's the same.
because it's our culture too. We just have to figure out, I don't know what that means, but figure out what it looks like for us. Yeah,
Okay.
You guys should leave a comment and let us know what you guys think it looks like,
please
or your.
do. Please
And if you
do.
saw
Let us,
Black King, what you say? What you think of it?
yeah, we want to know what you think. We want to know your thoughts on Black is King. We want to know your thoughts on feeling judged as an African American. Do you think that it resonated with you? Do you think, nah, I've never had that experience? We want to know.
And even then, like again, I know from my perspective, and as an African, what are your thoughts on how she delivered that content? And then even then, like also how African Americans may actually treat you as an African. Like, let us know. Like, I want to bridge the gap. I want this to be
Absolutely. I love that. Oh, and I have a challenge. Okay. I want to challenge my island folk whom I love so much and deeply to to consider what you're saying and if it's true when you're making certain comments about a certain culture. And I mean, I'm challenging myself to do that too, but look it up before you say something ridiculous like 90% of African Americans are locked up. Really, y'all? So think about that. Consider it. And what lipstick are you guys wearing?
I'm wearing funnel cake. This is actually a Black-owned brand.
That's so
It's
cute.
Beauty Bakerie. It's one of the minis, and then just the walnut lip liner. That's it.
Pretty.
my turn. Hi.
Yeah.
So I actually don't have the actual bottle, but this is Boss Lady from the Lip Bar, which is also Black owned. Woo woo. This is cool.
I
Um,
know.
so it's like a universal red. We have to do this thing where all of us wear it to see what it looks like on everyone, but it's really
Do
fun.
you have it, Jess? I have it. I love it.
Don't have it. I need to get it.
Get it this week. And then, please. I'm also wearing a Black owned brand, Fenty, Unveil. This is like my standard. I love a good nude. So this chocolate nude is like my favorite thing. Thanks.
I always love
Okay.
how that one looks on you.
Thank you. Thanks. Love you. Oh, today's National Girlfriends Day. Someone texted me that. So,
Oh.
like, girlfriends, the show, like us. Like,
Okay.
I love you guys. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Bye. Thanks, you guys.
Miss you. Mwah. There we go.
You gotta do it, Jess. You hate kisses, but do it anyway. Thank you.